Hi everyone, it's Miss Rebecca. Today we're going to create a painting of Starry Night like Vincent van Gogh, painted in 1889. You'll need a watercolor set and a pencil and a piece of paper to start. Vincent van Gogh was one of the most tragic artists who ever lived. Nothing ever seemed to go right for him, and he wasn't very happy. He never even smiled in his self-portraits. Sometimes he was too angry to paint, and sometimes he was too sad to paint. And when he felt good, he painted better than ever. He made the stars in Starry Night seem like they're really shining. The trees in this painting look like flames, and it feels like the whole picture is moving because of all of those little tiny brush strokes. So today, we're going to make our own brush strokes using our watercolor set. So lay your paper flat on your table, and if you have masking tape, I would suggest to place the masking tape around the edges of your paper so that your paper doesn't buckle up or bend, and you'll have a nice white frame. Okay, let's start with pencil. Starting at the bottom of your paper, you're going to create a long, wavy line all the way from the left side of your paper to the right side of your paper. So it's just a long curve that has a couple of bumps. Now we're going to start on the opposite side, the right side, and we're going to create another curved line that curves downward like a down-sloping hill, and it hits the first line you drew. Next, we're going to draw the final line going all the way across your paper. It's another wavy line following the curve of the last lines you drew, and that's the land. Now, starting at the top, we're going to draw an S curve, which is basically a long swirling curve like this, and it curls around and curls inward like a spiral. This is the wind in his painting. And then we're going to create another curve right underneath this swirl, and it's going to follow the same shape, the same line, following underneath, and it's going to swirl or spiral in a smaller spiral right underneath. So you have these two main spirals or swirly lines. Now we're going to create 4 small circles right here on this section, and they're about the size of a dime or a nickel. And just draw 4 dime or nickel shaped circles. And then we're going to draw 4 more right above that swirl, right here. And they don't have to be perfect circles. Just space them out. Try your best. And then we're going to add 2 more circles right here on this side of the spiral wind. And then we're going to add 1 big circle, and that's going to be for the moon. So just lightly sketch your circle around and around, as circular as you can get it. If you want to use a stencil, you can, like a cup, but it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Okay, so now get your watercolor set, and let's start painting. I like to start with yellow first because it's the lightest color. So we're going to start with yellow, put a lot of water in your yellow like I'm doing now, and start to paint in all of the circle shapes. Can you find where your circles are? This one here is the largest circle. That's where the moon's going to go. Fill it in nice and solid with your yellow. Now find all of the other circles on your picture, and let's fill those in with our yellow paint. Use a lot of water when we use watercolor to activate that paint, and try your best to stay inside the shape of the circle. We're going to do all of those circles with yellow. Take your time and make sure you're using water. Now, that first wave on the top, we're going to fill in that whole wave again with yellow. So we're going to continue using the yellow here. I'm just going to fill it in like it's a pathway going from one side of my paper all the way to the other side. So just fill that in. And there we go. You should have that nice and solid yellow. Perfect. Stay in lines. Next, take your eraser. Now we're going to erase the swirls. We're going to erase that first swirl, and that's because we don't want the pencil to show. You should still be able to see where the swirl is, because the pencil won't be completely erased. Just blow off the little crumbs. You'll still see where that spiral was. And now here's the trick. We're going to follow that spiral pathway using little brush strokes with our blue paint. So I'm going to start where that pencil line was, and I'm just going to make my little dashes or little dots of blue brush strokes following that erased line that we first drew. And this is going to represent the wind blowing. So this is the main gust of wind that Vincent van Gogh was illustrating here. And it sure was windy in this picture. So just keep going back into your water and then back into your blue. And you're making these little dashes or little dots with your paintbrush. Make sure you're just following the path of that spiral that we drew. And we're just going to curl it till we get to the middle. And that's the first gust of wind, the main gust of wind. Now we're going to do the second little piece of wind under. So we're going to erase it. We're going to erase that swirl because we don't want the pencil line to show in our painting. So we're going to erase that spiral, but you're still going to be able to see a little bit where the mark was, and that's a good thing. So you're going to be left with a little bit of crumbs, just blow them off. And now we're going to do the same thing where we make little dashes or dots and brush strokes, and we're following the path of that spiral or that S curve. So just follow the pathway of that gust of wind all around. Keep going, dot, 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 dash, dash, dash. Keep going around. Just follow that path of the spiral. And that is the main event right there. Now, you see how I did that really fast? You're going to fill in all your negative space that's left over with solid blue. So whatever white space is underneath your wind or your spirals, paint it in. We're also going to paint in that section underneath the yellow using a light blue. So if you water down your blue, you'll make a lighter blue. You can even add a little green in your blue to make that aqua color. Remember we did that before? Take a little bit of green and a little bit of blue and water it down, and you should be left with this like aqua color, this lighter blue, turquoise. And just fill in that section there. Now on the bottom, this is up to you, the color, but I like to put on the bottom a green and a blue mixed together. So if you want to mix together green and blue, just fill in that whole bottom section with your green and blue mixture, and there we have it. Okay, now throughout these hills, we're going to take blue and we're going to just make brush strokes. So let's start from one side to the other. Let's start in the yellow section, making our dashes, dot, 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 and follow the shape of that yellow band like a pathway when you make your brush strokes. And the same goes for this section. We're still using blue, but we're following the shape that's there with our brush strokes and just filling in dot, 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 dash, dash, dash with blue brush strokes. And we're going to continue the exact same thing in the bottom section with blue. Use a lot of water and just make your little brush strokes starting from one side to the other. We're going to fill in the whole section, really activating the bottom of the picture with brush strokes. Now this creates movement. The eye moves along the picture with the brush strokes in the same direction. So you have movement with brush strokes. There we go. Now, around each yellow circle, we're going to now take a watery yellow and just go right around each circle, right over those blue brush strokes. And make sure the blue is dry when you do this. I gave it a little bit of time to dry so that you don't lose all your brush strokes. So I'm taking my yellow and I'm using a watery yellow to go around each yellow circle right on top of those blue brush strokes. Make sure, like I said, the blue brush strokes are dry before you do this. Otherwise, you'll lose your brush strokes because it'll all start to blend together. So I'm just taking a watery yellow, going around, and it might turn a little greenish, and that's okay. But you'll still see some of those blue dashes and blue dots. And that's what we want. We're going to go around the whole moon area, filling it in with that yellow, going right on top of my blue brush strokes. Okay. Next, if you have an orange marker, you can use an orange marker, but you don't have to. You could always use your orange paint. Make sure that the sun is dry before you do this. So the moon part has to be dry. So we're making these two C shapes, these two, like the letter C. See that? And then I'm outlining the letter C with my orange to create like this crescent moon. And then I'm just filling it in with my orange marker. Now, you could also fill this in with your orange paint. If you don't have a marker, it's okay. Now, inside each yellow circle, I want you to make a orange polka dot. Just make a little circle, fill it in with a little orange, and there we have our stars in the sky, surrounded by the wind. There it is. So you're doing all that right there. Now we're going to go back into the gust of wind. We're going to add a little bit more brush strokes to it using purple this time. So I'm going to dip the water into the purple, and I'm going to follow that same spiraling gust of wind using purple dashes and dots and brush strokes. So you're doing the same thing that you did with the blue, but this time you're doing it with purple. Just adds more texture, more movement to your picture. So just keep going, swirl it around. I'm just making little tiny dashes and dots. Go around and around with the purple. And it's okay if it goes right on top of your blue brush strokes. That's okay. And now you're going to do the bottom gust of wind the same way with the purple. Little dots, dot, 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 and dash, dash, dash. Little brush strokes all the way around. Follow that spiral, follow that curve. It's okay. Go right on top of your blue brush strokes. That's okay. All right. Perfection. I'm also putting a little bit of texture into those solid blue parts by adding the purple dashes or purple brush strokes right inside of those solid blue parts. See that? Okay. Now, you're going to add orange. Little tiny bits of orange brush strokes go all the way around the yellow circles. So just a few for the stars, just a little bit. Don't put too many because you don't want to lose the yellow. You still want to see the yellow, but the orange is little brush strokes going around each star, each orange circle. Okay, we're getting there now. Now, we're going to make the tree shape using a black marker. Starting at the bottom of your paper, make a wavy line. Wavy line. It's going to cut right through almost to the top of your paper, and it's a little bit slanted. And then it points at the top, and I'm following the same curve all the way down to the bottom of my paper. And I'm going to do that twice. So it's a wavy line starting from the bottom of your paper, cutting right up through. It's a little shorter this time. It comes to a point, and the wavy line comes back down. And now, at the bottom, make a long wavy line going from one side to the other side of your paper. Now, all of that will get filled in using a black. So you could use your black marker, or you could do this with your black watercolor paint. I'm going to use my paint, and I'm going to very carefully stay inside the lines of my tree shape. And I know this was a weird tree, but this is how Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night tree kind of looked. It looked like a wavy line blob tree. So here we go. You're filling that in with black. Take your time all the way up to the point. And we're going to fill in the second tree right next to it with the black. Take your time all the way to the point. And then finally the bottom piece right there on the bottom, you're going to do all the way black. Black, 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 all the way from one side to the other. Fill it in until it's all filled in. There we go. And finally, the funnest part is after it's dried a little bit, let it dry, and then peel off your masking tape. I love doing this because when you peel it off, it's leaving you with this really pretty white border. It really gives your painting a finished quality. It really looks like a finished piece of art. So there we have it. We tried to make Starry Night just like artist Vincent van Gogh. Please post your work on Google Classroom. I'd love to see what you guys did. Thanks, guys.